Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here along with Pete.
Yo!
And today, guys, we're here to talk about a story that's been kind of circulating for a couple weeks now, but we decided to talk about it, and that's, of course, Adam Silver talking on the Bill Simmons panel, saying that players are very unhappy in the league. He talks about saying this: "When I meet with them, what surprises me is that they are truly unhappy," Silver tells Bill Simmons. "A lot of these young men are generally unhappy. I think it's less calculated than a lot of people think in terms of players moving teams." He says that the reality is that most don't want to play together. They're enormously jealous of one another. And then he also goes on to talk about this as well. If you're around a team in this day and age, they always have their headphones on. He always talks about the players are isolated and always have their heads down. So when we really look at it, and people kind of look from the outside looking in, they say that these players have this money, the jewelry, the cars, Jordans, Adidas, whatever shoe brand, Balenciagas,
the Jenners, whichever one is the flavor of the month.
Whatever Jenner you want. They see this stuff and they're like, how can they be unhappy? They have everything that they could ever want. But Peter, why do you think that these players are really unhappy in the league?
I mean, to sum it up in a couple words here, it's the media. 100%. And the media, and I'm not just referring to one form of media, but you have all sorts of publications, social media, you have ESPN itself as a big collective, right? You have all of these different things that factor in, and in a day and age where people care about social media so much more than they should, right? Because people like us care about social media. People who have 0 followers on Twitter or Instagram, whatever the case may be, care about that, and they care what people say to them, and they care how many likes their posts get, right? So imagine if you are a guy who has millions of people who, you know, are trying to get your attention, right? The negativity bias that affects everybody, right, with social media. Social media really is just like a poison at this point. Everybody is affected by it. And can you name any person in your life, and asking you or any of the viewers, right? Can you name anybody where social media actually impacts your life in a positive way?
I mean, you could say some stuff in terms of getting the news and information a lot faster than traditional media and stuff like that, because you can instantly go like this, and then you see the tweet, and then all of a sudden the news will then cover it more. But
that's also just like, that's convenience, not necessarily like benefiting you in a happy way, right? It never makes anybody happy. You might laugh at, you know, the odd tweet here and there, but at the end of the day, everybody is so unhappy on social media that when you are a guy who has hundreds and thousands of tweets directed at you, Instagram post comments directed at you, day in and day out, they see that stuff and they hear these guys around the league talking nonsense constantly, because that is what it takes to be a superstar, right? And a lot of these guys get rewarded for negative behavior, and it influences the younger guys. And the person I'm going to use is Jimmy Butler, right? Incredibly negative media focus on him for really bad reasons this season. But at the same time, he can go to a team like the Timberwolves and basically bully the young guys on the team, right?
Right.
And he still is treated as if he's funny and doing the right thing on social media. People enjoyed what he did, and I'm just as guilty. I thought when he did the thing, when he went to the practice and talked all the crazy stuff to Karl-Anthony Towns and Wiggins, I thought it was funny.
Beating him with like the third string guys.
It was funny, and it was an incredible flex on a bunch of younger guys. But at the same time, if you don't think that Karl-Anthony Towns isn't going to remember that for the rest of his career, you're crazy. He will. Even if he goes to heights, which he most likely will, even if he goes to heights that Jimmy Butler will never, ever reach in his career, he will always remember what Jimmy Butler did to him, you know? And the things that Jimmy Butler said to him. And not only that, but then these players see, like, they see LeBron going to these different places with his friends and it working out. And I think they all want to replicate it because they are jealous, right? So LeBron's big decision, you know, and going to Miami, I think that was a very positive thing in some ways, as far as like empowering guys to try and find the most money they can, go play in a situation that makes them happy. But at the same time, it also is very negative because it influences these guys to think they need to play with their friends, or they need to go to a big city to be successful and make money. That is literally not the case.
Right.
You know, they could make money anywhere. Damian Lillard makes money in Portland.
Yeah.
You know, De'Aaron Fox is going to make an incredible amount of money in Sacramento if he decides to stay there. I just think like a lot of the blame is it's internalized upon themselves, and then the media says, well, you have all this money, you're in a day and age where the contracts are bigger than they've ever been. Once you have $200 million, there is no difference between that and $230 million. There's no difference. There's no difference between $100 million and $150 million, really. Because once you have that money, you have money.
Yeah.
What are you gonna buy every day of your life? But that's what these guys think they need to do. I think it's partially self-imposed negativity, but at the same time, they are in a world where if you want to be successful, you need to be on social media every day. And that is not conducive to health, like mental health.
Yeah, I just think when we look at everything is kind of looked through, like you said, a very Instagram rose-tinted glasses. You see the NBA players in Mexico and Cabo or traveling around the world. Everybody sees this stuff, and you see fans congratulating them, telling them, "Oh, that's awesome, that's cool." And then you have the fans that are negative, and that's what I think a lot of us, especially our generation, even the younger generation, kind of strive off of, or that's where we get our most gratification from, is not from our friends and family. When our friends and family tell us, "Oh, you know, you're doing an awesome job, it's great that you went to college, or it's great that you're successful in your business, or you got a great job," we don't get gratification from that anymore. Like my parents did. What we get gratification from is people on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all these other social media sites where they tell us, "Wow, that's really cool what you did. Like, that's awesome. Look at what you did." Like our comment section, like sometimes I kind of get guilty of it too.
Yeah.
Where we look at the comment section, I like to look at the negative comments, the positive comments.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like that's when we've made it on YouTube.
100%. And I know for a fact that I still can recite negative comments that we got within the first 2 months of starting this channel. Right? It's just the way it's the way that our brains are designed to work.
Yeah, and that's what I think is really the problem here, is that we looked at people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
To really get our gratification and our acknowledgement from. And I just think that that's the wrong way to look at it. I wish we could do it like our parents did, where it was more of your aunt, your uncle, your friends saying like, "Oh wow, you did an awesome, great job," and then we get gratification from that. And I think that's the reason why guys like Charles Barkley has come out in the media and talked about guys like Kyrie Irving saying, "Why are you complaining? You have all this money, you have all this stuff in front of you, all these advantages that the regular person doesn't have." But sometimes, like, money, it's a cliche to say, but money just can't buy you happiness.
No, not at all.
It sucks because, when you think about it, you have $100 million, you have all this money, like, what is there to complain about? It still doesn't take away the issues that a person internally has.
Yeah. And I think like all those things in accumulation of like all of them, right? It makes these guys almost hate basketball. I feel like some of them just don't even like it. And we're just as guilty. Like, we criticize these guys all the time because that's what that's what we're here for, is to criticize, and not only that, but just to talk about basketball, right? So when we make jokes about a guy like Blake Griffin pursuing his comedy career, right? I've made fun of him a million times for that, right? But seriously, if the guy wants to go do stand-up comedy, good for him. That's whatever floats his boat. And if he's not finding his happiness on the court with all his money he has, if stand-up comedy is his thing, honestly, good for him. I know in my personal life, I have people tell me all the time that like the career paths that I've pursued and tried to take on are wastes of time. Why don't I go back to school and get my degree in accounting or whatever it is? Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to go do something that makes me miserable, right? But these guys don't have the luxury to say, I don't want to go play with Kyrie in New York. I don't want to do that. I would rather play in Golden State with Clay and Steph. Right. KD can't come out and say that, but he's caused a lot of his own problems too. Yeah. Some of these guys are their own worst enemy. The guy had struggle saying that, but really, like KD with the Twitter thing where he made the fake accounts. Kyrie with like just constantly talking about how the young guys don't do enough, right? They're making their problems 10 times worse, because if they just didn't say anything, they would still be getting their paychecks, but then they wouldn't have all the public criticism that they do. Or not as much, because they're going to get it regardless. But the more open and honest you are, I think that that hurts you more nowadays. Yeah. Everything you say can be held against you for many days, months, years, right?
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate, because Charles Barkley can say whatever he wants, but Charles Barkley didn't play when social media existed.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, put him today in today's NBA, he is the most criticized guy in the entire NBA. Or at least in the top 5.
He's one of them. And I just think that this also goes down to like the next generation of NBA stars too, because we know that Ball is Life, Overtime, Slam, all these basketball media outlets that cover high school sports are starting to now come in and really, expose these kids to a lot of fans and a lot of people that are saying who's going to be the next this, who's going to be the next Kyrie, the next LeBron, all this stuff. Even Zion got some of that too in high school. I just think that when we start doing that to the kids, it's going to start affecting them mentally, and then by the time they get to the league, they're already mentally drained by the fact that we criticize them, we talk about them so much, we talk about how their game needs to improve here and here. That I'm not saying that we need to coddle them in terms of...
Yeah, that's not our point, even a little bit. It's just a matter of, knowing boundaries, right? Yeah. And, to give people an equivalent, think of, child actors, right? That hardly ever works. It very rarely pans out where the person becomes a good actor. I could literally name 2. There's, Leonardo DiCaprio is, number 1, right? Not everybody is Leonardo DiCaprio. Not everybody is LeBron James. Mm-hmm. They're, the equivalent. So if you have a guy like Zion who's been in the public spotlight since his sophomore year of high school, or a guy like LaMelo Ball who was literally a celebrity at 15, how do you think those guys mentally are going to adjust to being even bigger celebrities than they already are and having people dislike them? Because think about it, in high school, if you're the star of the basketball team, whatever the case may be, everybody loves you.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal. If you are that guy, you are the guy. But when you get to the NBA, you have 29 different fan bases that hate your guts. Even sometimes your own fan base hates your guts. Everybody. And it has nothing to do with who you are, because none of these people actually know you.
Yeah.
So, it sets all these false standards for kids, and then they come into the league after they've earned so much, and then it's just constantly you suck, you're not living up to the hype.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I want to talk about, is the fact that you said it, these kids, they come into high school, the college, they're like, oh my god, he's gonna be better than LeBron, he's gonna be this, he's gonna be that.
Yeah.
And then when they don't live up to that, fans start getting angry, they start getting upset, they start saying, wow, you suck. And then it's a whole switch that I think that a lot of us, we talked about how you get gratification from fans and people that you don't know. When they start going against you, you're like, but you guys were just with me a couple years ago. What happened? What made the switch? And I think that that's something that I'm hoping there's some way that we can kind of change that narrative, or change the way that works, because I don't want these kids to get burned out from basketball and all this other stuff at such a young age, and then they're just done by the time they're 29 or 30, because we know that guys like Kyrie talked about early retirement. Guys like Kevin Durant talked about early retirement.
Yeah.
As much as we hate Kevin, not hate, but the fact that, a lot of us have been kind of negatively focused on Kevin Durant, we don't want him to retire before his end of his prime. We want him to continue to go on until he can't play no more.
Absolutely. He's one of the greatest players of all time. But this is everywhere in our generation, though.
Yeah.
This current 20s and late teens generation, everything is like this, though. What the pressure, and the thing that people don't even think about is the pressure of being in that sort of spotlight it's almost insurmountable to feel that amount of pressure. And think of all the guys in this last draft, right? Mo Bamba, or all these guys getting compared to KD, right? Or the guys about to come out of college. It's how are you going to compare a guy who's 17 and a half to one of the 15 greatest players of all time before he's done anything? But you don't think that Mo Bamba, or whoever the case may be, hears that comparison. They're like, oh my god, I have to play like KD when I get to the league, or people are going to hate my guts, you know? Think of Brandon Ingram, for that matter. He's finally starting to come around.
Yeah.
But it's taken him years because it's not an instant transition to be a college basketball or a high school superstar and do that in the NBA. But everybody expects so much for so little amount of time invested. It's just, it's really unfortunate. So I hope like Adam Silver in the league, like my biggest thing, if I was them, I would say get these guys away from social media as much as possible.
Yeah, or just even just train them. And I'm glad that now Adam Silver's talking about bringing in guys or bringing in specialists to help them, like mental health and
sports
psychologists and stuff like that. Because I think the crazy thing is that we're gonna need that now for the high school kids.
Absolutely.
And even the younger generation, even younger than them, like, you know, middle school, because that's when the, you know, the change starts happening. You know, you start learning more about yourself, learning more about what kind of person you want to become at that age, and then you get to high school. I just think that I'm glad that the league is looking at this, and I'm hoping that they can somehow trickle down this sort of mental coach and sports psychologist and even just psychologists in general to go down into the schools. I know this is turning into something else right now, but I'm hoping that that is what's going to be happening.
It's all part of it, though.
So that way kids can understand and better deal with, you know, the bullying and the other stuff that's going on in this generation.
I think, like, so my biggest thing, and I think that, to me personally, from the outside looking in, I think this is the thing that would help the most. I think seeing these NBA guys come together and support each other it's like the key to all of it, because none of them do that. Like it's very rare, and when they do it, it's probably all behind closed doors. They tell each other like Kyrie, I've seen what you went through this season, and I'm sorry, you know. But the people who need to see that the most are the public. Like if the public sees LeBron say, you know, KD, I was a little disappointed when you went to Golden State because, you know, you lost them and whatever. From a basketball perspective, I was disappointed. But as a person and as another NBA player, good for you, you know? And I think that they focus on the wrong things outwardly, like money and contract negotiations and stuff. That is not what the public needs to see, because then everybody's like, the guy already makes $30 million. Why are you coming to support him saying he wants to make 40 now? Come out and say, hey, you're having a really rough season, and I'm sorry you had a rough season. What can I do to help you in your situation? But say that to the public, not say, dude, you deserve more money, because that's not what people need to hear. Everybody has money in the NBA right now. It's just very... I'm happy to see Adam Silver talk about it, but I think just simply bringing attention to it obviously isn't enough. And I think that they need to have like a core group of influential NBA players come together and say, dudes like Jimmy Butler are the opposite. Like, that stuff should be frowned upon so negatively. Right. Like, LeBron should come out and say, when that Jimmy Butler situation comes out, he's like, send out a tweet or something. Be like, Jimmy, like, that's your team, dude. You know, what are you doing? Regardless if you like them, that's not how it goes. But at the same time, you shouldn't comment on everything. My point is that there just needs to be support structure, because anybody who is going to succeed or is succeeding now has some sort of support structure, and especially the guys who make it last long do. Yeah. I mean, this is just a very interesting topic, and just a lot of stuff that will come from this. But we want to know your guys' opinion on Adam Silver's comments about players being unhappy. What do you guys think of the whole thing? Do you guys agree with what Adam Silver is saying, or are you more on Charles Barkley's side? We'd love to know your guys' opinion in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, this has been your boy Bernie here on The Charge along with Pete. And if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Also, get that notification bell to make sure you don't miss our NBA content. We, of course, talked about stuff like Luka Doncic, Trae Young, all this other stuff that you guys will be very interested in. But anyway, guys, we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.